And also, I hope that we just not stuck too much with only kind of theoretical examples, but that we have sufficient time to do some implementation of these theories, of a couple of spreadsheets, for example, on how to implement option pricing models, I mentioned on the testing the capital asset pricing model, whether it really explains returns. So, yeah, and I hope that we spend enough time on the application of this. And then probably it's obvious where you could use this knowledge. You can work in investment banks, finance departments of corporations, and so on. So everything that's related to the finance industry. You can use it for your personal investments, right, to make better financial decisions, or at least avoid mistakes. So sometimes the best decision is not to do something, specifically in the financial markets. If people get, for example, in a trap, say, taking on too much debt, it's really hard to work themselves out of this on their own. Yeah, so good financial decisions are really something that's important for your long-term wealth of not only yourself, but also your families, actually. And part of this is kind of avoiding the biggest mistakes. Nevertheless, I would like to mention that even if you don't really want to work in the finance department, or if you say, I want to delegate all my future investment decisions to an advisor or a banker, and you don't want to do that yourself, I think it's important to know the core principles of finance if you work in a company, because even if you're in marketing, for example, you will have your projects to be approved by a finance person. Right? So there is an investment committee, usually run by the CFO, Chief Financial Officer. And if someone wants to kind of invest money in any area of business, they have to get the approval of the finance people. Right? So if you then hear about their language, what is a beta and discount rate and so on, and if that is only a black box for you, you can't really understand, these people can basically screw you, right? They can tell you anything they want. So even if you're not interested in working in finance directly, only in related fields like accounting or even something like marketing, you still have to understand the core language of finance. How does this then nail down to an outline? So the first part, the fundamentals part, for me is kind of review. So the valuation principles is something that I hope that you've seen in your bachelor studies at some point. So there are basically two valuation principles that we're going to study. So the first one is the present value method, or discounted cash flow, it's sometimes called. And the second one is the law of one price, which bases on the assumption that markets are free of arbitrage. So review what arbitrage is and how we can apply it. What's important for me is that these are two different approaches, but they're consistent in the sense that they will always lead to the same result. So the question which approach you apply is, it's not really a choice, it depends on what information you have available to you. For the present value method, you need to know the discount rate. The discount rate is a number that we use for discounting, like an interest rate. That reflects the riskiness of that what you're discounting. So the key element of our study here, and that's basically the big theory that we're going to discuss here, will be the discussion of how to kind of link risk to this discount rate. The law of one price works totally different. The law of one price basically works by comparison. So if you want to know the price of something, you basically look for other financial instruments whose prices you observe, and you try to kind of slice and dice them and recreate the same financial product that you want to value out of something else. Right? That's called replication. And then the law of one price says that if these two things, the product that you want to compute the value of and the replication strategy, they get the same cash flows, they must have the same price. And basically the valuation of derivatives bases on this principle. So you try to recreate the same cash flows through other transactions, and then you just observe the price of these transactions, and that's the price that you're looking for. You could use, for example, the present value computations for stock options. That will be feasible. The problem is, for example, that for a call option or for any stock option, the discount rate is not constant. It changes over time. So how do you really treat that correctly if the discount rate's moving? So you can do that. It's really difficult, so we're not going to do it. Right? So basically you choose the method that's easier in the specific context. But again, they're consistent in the sense that they will always get you to the same price, and in some easy examples, we can rewrite the problem from one representation into the other. Right? So it's not something that's contradicting in any way. So we're going to review these two approaches next week. And depending on kind of what your previous knowledge is, slow me down, right? If I'm going too fast next week, then we can spend more time on it, right? Just to bring everyone on the same page. And then we have basically two big buckets. The first one focuses on the markets. And here we're basically developing a very important theory, which is called the capital asset pricing model, which is abbreviated as CAPM. So this is a little bit of a lengthy chapter because the chapters 3, 4, and 5 kind of build upon each other. So to ask you a little bit to be patient because we develop a thought over several weeks, which just take a little bit of time. But I want to do it on a level that's not superficial, and the portfolio theory was developed by Harry Markowitz, got a Nobel Prize, and the one for chapter 5, the capital asset pricing model, got a Nobel Prize. Right, so don't expect to learn something about a Nobel Prize theory in kind of 30 minutes. That doesn't work out. And then the chapter 6 will be kind of, for me, like a reality check where we'll talk a little bit about research results and critically review what the theory is capable of and where the flaws are. So that's the market focus, and it's really, as I mentioned before, something that you need to know basically before studying any finance course. So how you can relate the risk of something to the discount rate or expected return. And then in the final part of the lecture, we're basically going through different types of products. Simple derivatives, equity products, fixed income products. Well, it's not only derivatives here, so we're also looking at the kind of the stock market products. But so the objective is here then to cover every kind of topic that's, or any product that's kind of important in financial markets. Chapter 10 for me is a little bit optional. Let's see how far we can get. Because the credit risk means this kind of, what's the risk that a company can borrow, the risk that's reflected in the interest rate at which a company can borrow. And that's very much related to what you do in next semester's class. So I can introduce you to a simple model here, the so-called merchant model. Might be a nice thing because it bases on formulas from the derivatives area here. It's a very simple model to evaluate credit risk. But there is some overlap with what you do kind of next semester. The value or the added value could be that we basically look at this in an idealized world, the perfect market, and then you study with Lavalza next semester kind of what the differences are to the real world and the market imperfections. But that's not something that I think we have to do at any cost, so to speak. If there is anything, especially in terms of the products, any product that you were interested in that you've encountered, or anything that you want to discuss more deeply, please let me know. So I think for me it's very important to get this theory here across because I think it's the foundation of finance. And here in the financial instruments area, we can basically look to the left and the right and see what's out there. And so on. Good. So, any questions so far? I've just dumped lots of information on you. But please just really use the opportunity to kind of give feedback to me and tell me what you find interesting. So you're a master's student, so I think can treat you a little bit different than bachelor's